What's up guys, it's the Psych NP. Today we're going to do a video about how much should you expect to make as a psych nurse practitioner. These are my experiences as a new grad in Maryland. It varies from state to state, and it also depends on if you're working inpatient or outpatient, or you're doing a hospitalist kind of service or medical consults. So it always really depends, but this is from my experiences. Some of my peers that have 3 to 5 years experience, 10 years experience, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what to expect, and also give you an idea of also what I was making before as a Psych RN, and kind of how much it's increased as a Psych NP. Alright guys, let's get to the video. So how much did I make as a Psych RN? When I was a Psych RN, when I first started as a nurse, I graduated in 2014, and I actually worked in the surgical ICU intermediate care, and I was making $26.17 down in at University of Maryland Medical Center down in Baltimore, and I was making $26.17, and that was like the new grad rate. You couldn't really negotiate that. It was pretty dead set, and it's kind of a low ball number, at least in the Maryland area. But for me, $52,000 a year was a lot. Making whatever I was making before, at a regular job, and then switching to becoming a nurse, it was a good pay increase. It was enough to pay my bills. I could go on trips. I could save some money. Bought my first car, things like that, and for me it was good. It was a good amount of money, but every year to 2 years I gained maybe $1 or $2 as a raise. So I continued working as an RN until 2019, and by the time I was finished, I was making $30 an hour working as a Psych RN at a hospital in Baltimore. And I think a lot of my other peers were actually making more than me. I was still relatively new, even though I was as an RN for basically 4 to 5 years. But I know that if you're a travel nurse, or if you're a nurse working in another state that needs RNs, I know you get paid more. I think being a Psych RN, I know that some of the RNs that were working on other units were making more. I think if I stayed as an ICU nurse, I would have made more money. But as a Psych RN, they didn't really give me that kind of option, and I didn't really have any room for negotiation. But really, being an RN, guys, you get paid pretty decently. But as a Psych NP, I definitely make a lot more. And to be honest with you, the quality of life to me is a lot better. So how much should you expect to make as a psychiatric nurse practitioner? I talked to several of my peers. Some of them have 3 years experience, 5 years experience, and this is coming from the outpatient side. Some people are making like $150,000 a year to $225,000 a year, and this is after a couple years experience, and this is based in Maryland. And it really always depends on how much do you really bring to that practice. How much money do you bring to that practice? And you should learn how much you're billing, the codes that you're billing. And really, for most NPs, especially if you are seeing at least 15 patients a day, overall you should be bringing in at least $300,000 to your practice. So you obviously have to account for overhead that the practice provides for you, the malpractice insurance, the vacation, the EHR. There's so many little factors that obviously the people that employ you have to pay. But really, even if you get paid $225,000, they're still making a good amount of money off of you. And especially if you're seeing 25 patients in a day, they're making a killing off of you. That's a fact. But I have a lot of my peers. They're making around 150, at least 150. That's the low end. I've seen 180, 190, 200 for my peers. Not as much as some of the psychiatrists, but it's in the ballpark. And like I said, it varies from state to state. This is based in Maryland, and in Maryland we can practice independently here, and that makes a big difference. In Maryland, all the states around us are actually not fully independent. I think Virginia, they're on the cusp of doing something. I know something's happening with that, but at least everything around us, they need an independent, or they need another collaborator. So as a new grad Psych NP, how much should you expect to make? As a new grad, I got 3 offers, and I took the one where I'm currently working. I'll give you a ballpark estimate of how much I'm making. But my first offer in Maryland, I got offered $160K to work in inpatient psychiatry in downtown Baltimore. $160K a year, full benefits, everything was good, and I'd have to work Monday through Friday, but I'd have to be on call 2 weekends out of the month, and I'd have to work 1 weekend every month as well. So for me, that the quality of life, I just didn't want to work weekends, and I saw the quality of life of the people that worked inpatient, and some of the doctors really liked it. But for me, I didn't really want to work inpatient. That's where I worked as a Psych RN, and I just didn't want to work there. But 160K was an offer that I received. My second offer was 150,000 in an outpatient job. But I knew that job was going to be really difficult as a new grad. It didn't seem like it had much support for me. And for me, and for most new grads, you guys should really have some support. You need some help, especially initially. You need people that will not overload your schedule right away because, you're learning. It doesn't matter if you're a new grad psychiatrist or a new grad PA. You need to at least have some orientation period initially so you can get used to the EHR, get used to the flow of the patients and documentation. For me, they wanted 15-minute medication checks and 45-minute initial evaluations, and I knew that was going to be a really rushed job. I was going to be seeing at least 25 plus patients a day, and mentally for me that was going to be too much because I knew what it was like as a student when my preceptor was she had 15-minute medication checks and I think 1 hour initial evaluations. But she was so overwhelmed when I would watch her, and she told me before I left as a student, she was like, please make sure that whatever job you pick, they can offer you good money, they offer you maybe good benefits, but you want your quality of life to be good. So don't accept a job. She said as a new grad, try to find a job with 20-minute medication checks. I don't even think she believed that it was a possibility to find a job with 30-minute medication checks. But luckily, I was able to find one. And now going to my current job offer and how much I was offered, and this is the job that I actually took. So as a Psych RN, I was making $30 an hour, around $60,000 a year. At this job, I'm making 2 to 3 times more than that. So I'm making more than $120,000. I'm making less than 180. I'm not sure why I just don't want to give you guys the full number, but it's in that in that range. It's very similar to the offers I was given before. But I think as a new grad, at least in Maryland, you should say 120K. At least in Maryland is at the minimum you'll ever take. And you should always shoot for more because you know how much you should really bring to the practice. Even as a new grad, you're going to bring more than $200,000 a year to that practice, most likely. I know initially sometimes you have to build up your client load. You're not bringing in as much money, but you're worth it. You bring a lot of money to some practice, and you should be valued that way. But in my job, I have a 30-minute medication check. 1 hour initial evaluations. I do think having a longer instead of 1 hour would be nice, but it's 30 minutes is really good, guys, because you can really talk to your patients and not be so consumed and rushed to be typing the whole time while looking at them. It's nice to kind of slow it down a little bit because these days can be really long, and to have a really good working environment, I would always say if you get a job that would pay you $20,000 more, but you're gonna be more stressed, there's really no point in taking it. Take the job that will support you, that you'll have a less stressful day, that you'll get paid still fairly well, at least your first couple years, and then later on, if that's what you want, if you want to chase the higher paying jobs with maybe faster medication checks, and you're more confident in being able to really prescribe the medication and diagnose them fairly quickly because you're more experienced, then that's a fine choice too. Obviously it's always about the patient first, no matter what. The longer time you have with them, the better you can make a better choice, get more detailed in your assessments, and really get to know these people. So I do think, guys, when your contract negotiations, always look for a job that if you can get a 30-minute medication check, right off the bat from school, it's really gonna benefit you in the long run. You can learn and not be so forced or stressed. Because when you have a 15-minute medication check job right out of school, you're gonna be rushed. People are going to be waiting outside in the waiting room, waiting for you because you're still maybe spending a little bit too much time with a patient. So, don't always look at the big number figure. You're going to be compensated well for this career. It's a good career, but don't always look at the money. All right, guys. So this is my experience working as a PMHNP in Maryland as an outpatient provider, and I hope it gives you guys a better idea of what to expect. Inpatient, I told you the offer I got was around 150, 160K. And that's for like a new grad. I do know an inpatient provider was making high 100s as an inpatient provider, but really I know some more about the outpatient side. I think the private practice side is a little bit different. You have to kind of understand that in a private practice, they're gonna have contracts with insurance companies, or they might be self-pay, and for whatever that may be, you should be able to calculate how much you're billing people. If you're seeing 15 people or 60 people in a week, and they're all follow-ups, you should know the code and how much they're really billing you, and then you can multiply that over the month, over the year, to see technically how much you're really giving them. Your private practice, whoever who employs you, they might have a contract or a biller, and they take a percentage of how much you're out of how much the rate goes. So there's a lot of overhead costs. Even though you might bring in $400,000 to a practice or $300,000 to a practice, generally they don't get that full kind of number. They have a lot of overhead costs. So that's kind of why you can't ask for $300,000. It's not reasonable unless you want to start your own private practice and you can control your own shots. I think in terms of if you really want to make good money, starting your own private practice has its own, it's not easy. But if you want to have more control and be your own boss, and if you really want to shoot for making more money, then that's where you have to kind of go towards. All right, guys, the second P out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is a fun video to make. I'm trying to be more consistent with my videos. Please be sure to comment and subscribe, and I appreciate it, guys. All right, guys, take care.